Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game SO, talking about one of the weirdest and most disappointing episodes in the channel's history today because the details on the Super Sega FPGA are just going off the rails. There's been a lot more information over the weekend and I've been warning each and every one of you exactly what is going on, but even so, I've had 3 or 4 people contact me and state they've ordered the Super Sega FPGA and did they make a mistake, because people are finding out now that $3 pre-order with the pre-authorization to charge your cards for the balance when it's ready to go has already been charged through, and people are seeing over €400 transactions on their credit cards. It wasn't a $3 pre-order, and that's going to be clarified in this video. But again, we've gone over Super Sega FPGA basically since they announced the project, because of course primarily I do a lot of FPGA stuff on the channel, and from day one I told you there's something about the Super Sega project that did not add up, and as details have come out and more revelations have come forward, we've totally understood exactly what is going on here, because Super Sega FPGA is promising an FPGA console that plays everything from Master System all the way up to Sega Dreamcast. We've got plenty of people poking at Dreamcast, and everyone is taking a look at this PCB, and we've all agreed, both people in electrical engineering and people that just talk about this for fun, that there is no way that this board is really doing anything fundamentally other than passing USB through and maybe some HDMI signal. And again, in the previous video I told you that this authorization for a pre-order for €3 gave the Super Sega team permission to charge your card whenever they wanted for the balance of that pre-order, €375. There was even a notification at the bottom that stated that they could bill you whenever they wanted based upon their terms. I even translated it for you on Google Translate. Of course, it's not perfect, but basically it said they can take your money anytime they want. And what did they do? They immediately took people's money. Every single penny of the Super Sega FPGA cost has now been charged to customers' cards, and this is exactly what I warned you about in the first video and told you do not give them any money, and unfortunately some of you did. I didn't even pre-order this for the channel because I have no interest in actually reviewing it any day when it does potentially release, and honestly I don't think we're going to see anything like that happen, because this is absolutely just disappointing to see that the FPGA gaming community and retro gaming in general has to suffer situations like this. And I also talked about some of the developers of Super Sega FPGA's previous company, including Cinemartin, which was an 8K camera that they took pre-order money for, went bankrupt, never shipped, and no one saw their camera or their money back. I even explained what an unsecured creditor was in a bankruptcy proceeding in case Super Sega runs out of money, so you would know what to expect. But don't worry, over the weekend the developers uploaded a new video, and they have a Lamborghini, so they must be trustworthy. And honestly, this footage is getting to the point now where it feels like parody, something like you'd see on Adult Swim overnight on their infomercials channel. But this is actually a real video they uploaded, and if you're wondering, I looked and I could rent a Lamborghini in downtown Chicago for the day for $800, and I could drive up, take a poorly printed 3D shell out of the car, and tell you that I am ready to ship my brand new FPGA project, the Mega Uranus, the brown hole of FPGA technology. I'm not even sure, it seems to be that he doesn't even know how to drive the car because he's rolling it forward. I think he forgot to put the clutch in there. But honestly, that is all an aside from the money-changing hands of the technology on display. Sure, we can kind of have a little bit of fun with the video because they certainly seem to, but again, this makes absolutely zero sense. You do not know what is going on here. I don't know if they know what's going on here, but they do make it a point to state that they work for Cinemartin, or used to, because they show a box that supposedly has a recorder in it. Again, something that I never saw ship whatsoever, and it even shows that he is wearing that Cinemartin t-shirt. So they're using that previous company's past to kind of say that they are good developers of this technology, even though Cinemartin went bankrupt and never shipped anything outside of 2 review cameras that barely worked. And honestly, cinema cameras are different than FPGA game consoles. Some ways they're easier, some ways they're harder. Neither one of them is a cakewalk. But the question you need to ask yourself now is, do these people genuinely have an FPGA device that is playing all these Sega games, or something else going on in the background? Because we talked about the fact that the USB was just a pass-through from the front of this board to the back, and how there were solder bridges on the HDMI port, which would basically make it non-functional, because you cannot bridge any single pin on an HDMI port unless they were grounds. That would be the only thing common between them. Any other solder bridge, and you're not going to get a signal out of the back of the console. So basically now we're going to go through their testing footage on camera in what could only be described as a video game trap house. I do not know where this is, but again, the parity levels here are off the chart, or at least it's how I am reading it. This camera is never going to stop moving. It's never going to focus on anything whatsoever. They're going to put an Allen wrench into holes in the console to try to reset it, and even drop it at one point in time. And even though I've definitely poked some things on arcade boards that I probably should have poked with metal screwdrivers, it does beg the question, why are you just jamming an Allen wrench into random holes on your Super Sega FPGA? Especially when they tilt it and it basically drops in. Probably would have contacted two different parts of the board that they didn't want contact, and probably would have sent continuity to something that they definitely didn't want to send it to. But this is basically the entirety of the video. They're still going to demonstrate the same games. They never show anything new. They never show anything different. But at least this time you get a look around the back of the television. You can see that it's weirdly painted white. But we will get to that in just a moment in time. I am just telling you again one more time here because people keep asking me about this. I had probably 24 messages over the weekend. Do not pre-order this thing. We now know that that €3 pre-order was almost instantaneously charged for the full retail amount of the console. And that's what I said to you guys in the previous video. They could do it at any point in time, and I did have a feeling that they were going to do it long before this is ready to ship, because clearly they stated on their website they would collect the money when they were getting ready to ship the first batch. Now everything you've seen on camera so far, they talk about the bugs, what doesn't work, the 3D printed shell. You can clearly tell this is in no way, shape, or form ready to ship, if it even exists whatsoever. And this is what is really disappointing, and I really am upset about, because I don't want to see this stuff happen in retro gaming. I want you to spend your money on cool things that do what they state they do. I don't want you to spend your money on projects like this. There's so many good people in the FPGA gaming community and retro gaming in general that make absolutely incredible products that you can trade for your money and be happy with what you receive. And then there's Super Sega FPGA. None of this video is making any logical sense. Yes, he is standing there in his underwear and even references it within the video that he just woke up. This is what they're demonstrating, and this is what they are trading 400 and change euros for. I do not know how in the hell anyone decided to pre-order this thing unless you have more money than Scrooge McDuck and you just felt like seeing what happened. And here is that Allen wrench again. At least this time he doesn't seem to drop it into the console. And I'm not sure who printed that 3D shell, but it definitely did not go well for them. I just don't understand what in the hell I am watching here. I'm watching a man in his underwear smoke cigarettes and play around with a console. And he does show the back of the TV in just a moment, saying that there's no other cables connected, and that is 100% true. But now we don't get to see what's actually inside that 3D printed shell. You see a controller that he states is hooked up via Bluetooth, and again he's stating right there that he just woke up and he's in his underwear, no big deal. I'm sure that's totally fine, because I'm pretty sure every time any other technology company unveils their new hardware, they do the exact same thing. And if you can't hear the sarcasm in my voice, this is the indicator that it is definitely there. And Slip's Game Room confirmed with time extension that their card had been charged the full €420 amount. Nice. And basically he called his bank and they stated it was not a pre-authorization or a holding payment. It had been sent through to his credit account. This is what I told you guys was going to happen, and some people out there still didn't seem to believe me whatsoever. So much so that Time Extension, great site, check it out by the way, referenced me in the article talking about that I stated in the previous video that pre-authorization confirmation could be used at any point in time based upon Super Sega's decision to charge your card for the full amount. Well, that's exactly what seems to have happened. They have charged the cards €420, nice again, and now you have to wait and see what you're going to receive, if anything, for that money. And this is what I was worried about, and this is what I basically told everyone to be careful of. There is absolutely nothing about these videos, about the prototype board or anything else that would indicate that this is actually working prototype. So you're asking yourself, what is connected into that HDMI port, and why is there white paint on the back of this TV? What in the hell happened to this house? We have absolutely no idea. Now, I can't state what's in the box because I can't open the box in front of me, but there are some options here. Obviously, that controller is hooked up to something via Bluetooth, and there's an HDMI cable in the back of the television going into the Super Sega box. So we have some options. The first one, we'll just play fair and say that there's an FPGA board in there and it's working exactly as they state it is. I'm not saying the likelihood of that is high, I'm just saying that I can't discount that factor. Secondarily, it could be a Raspberry Pi in there with a Bluetooth controller hooked up and just an extension on the HDMI out, so you can actually have this hooked up to a television and do whatever you want with it. So it could be something like RetroArch just running in the background. But trust me, it's definitely not vaporware because they tell us as such by blowing cigarette smoke into the camera and saying that it's not vaporware. That is actually a thing that happened in the video, and I had to include it because I wanted you to know 100% definitely not vaporware. Again, sarcasm in my voice even if you can't hear it. And option 3, a likely one, is that there is an HDMI receiver in that box. I have 3 of them in my collection just when I use them for different film purposes, and every single one of them is powered off a USB-A port, which is kind of funny because that's what you see going in the back of the console. But at this point in time, Super Sega has stated that it was always their intention to take the full balance, and they've done exactly that. So I would probably say you should pick the option behind door number 3, maybe call your credit card company and say that you want to do a chargeback. It's totally up to you, but now if you've given Super Sega all of your money, you just have to wait and see what finds out. At this point in time, this has got to be some of the most asinine shit I have ever seen, and I really hope you didn't pre-order this thing. But short of that, we're done. Next time they upload a video, we'll take it apart, but otherwise, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.